Hi, and welcome to Apple Cottage. This is Sandi. Today I'm making a quilted piece. Here's one of the pieces. Small squares, about 2 inches wide, 2 inches square. And the way I do this is I iron it on first to a Pellon sheer lightweight fusible piece. And I just have my squares cut out. And I try to line them up, and then I'm stitching one row at a time. So here you can see where I stitched one of the rows, and I will go every other row. So I stitched this row I haven't stitched yet, but then you can see I stitched this row, and I continue that all the way down, and I always go the same direction. Then when I go to do this next one, I'll start at the opposite end, still stitching about a 1/4 inch in until it's all the way done. So let's go back over to this one. And you can see that I've stitched, first I stitched every other one. Then I came back and did the opposite ones. Then I went and did them from top to bottom. Now I'm going to turn this over so you can see it. So you can see, and I didn't cut these apart where these little, where it's overlapped with the Pellon sheer lightweight fusible sheet. I didn't cut that. You could cut that, but because I'm going to do a lot of free motion quilting on top of it, I just simply ironed it. Now this is fairly large. It's about 1.5 feet by about almost 6 feet long. And I'm gonna put a backing on it, a batting. I like to use the all natural batting. And I'm gonna free motion stitch onto that. I'm gonna make some just fun designs all the way across that. I'll pick my background color based on these colors that are in the top. And then I'll put an edging on it also, because right now you can just see where the material stops, and you can see a little bit of that Pellon sheer lightweight fusible. Now the sheer lightweight fusible, it's textural on one side, and that's the side that you're going to iron your fabric onto, and on the back side is completely smooth. So I have this one. I have another one using the same kind of squares. And let me open this one. This one I haven't started to sew on at all yet, but it all has pinks and purples. And so as I go with that and I get some stitching done on it, I will show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to put my material back to my sewing machine, and I'll do some stitching so you see what I'm doing there. So welcome back to Apple Cottage. So I'm about to do another row. You can see I have 2 rows done. I am lining up the edge of the 2 fabrics and the fusible paper, or fusible web, and I'm lining it up right at the edge of my foot. And this is an easy way to get it completely straight. So I'm just going to take it, back stitch a little bit, and this is just such an easy way to do a quilting project. The sheer lightweight fusible fabric is very lightweight, very durable, and it's not so bulky that it's going to interfere with the quilt project when it gets all the way done. Now you could do these as table runners, make them, cut them back into sections and make purses and pillows and all kinds of things like that. But I'm actually going to make a wall hangings with them. And as we go through the process, I'll show you how I make wall hangings and the things I'm going to add on top of the quilted pieces when I get it all the way done. And I'm going to do some free motion with those pieces, and it will just turn out, I really think, fantastic. So I'm just going to stitch through and I'll do the next row, and then it'll be time to turn it, and we'll start doing the pieces, the squares this way instead. And so I'm going to stitch, and then I'll come back when I start doing it the opposite direction. I have all the vertical rows done, and so it's time for me to put an iron to it. It will just help flatten it out a little bit, and then when I go to do all of these rows, it's much easier because I'm not fighting or buckling any of the fabric. So what I first like to do is I like to look at the back side, and I decide what direction I want everything to go. So I'm gonna I have my iron hot, and I'm just going to iron these. And as I do it, I want to kind of stretch them a little bit. I just want to make sure that they're going the same direction for right now. I'm just pushing them all over. So then, when I go to do the ironing on the front, I check. Everything is still the same direction. And so then, I can just flatten it out. Sometimes I'll pull it a little bit so it just really flattens out. Because all the squares are on that Pellon lightweight sheer fusible material, everything stays in place. I can feel the back seams to make sure that they're staying where I want them to. And I'm just going to continue to do this whole section all the way down to the end. And then when I come back, we will be starting to do the side, the other seams. And what I'll do is I'll put this down, I'll pin it, then I want to leave a row, and then I'll do it again. I'll put them all down and see how the seams are all going the same direction. Then I'll pin that down. And that way I'll go all the way up and down, and it'll make it very quick for me to stitch. Okay, I will see you in a minute. The project is all ironed. I've folded my first crease. All the seams are going the same direction. Now I am going to put a pin in every single patch. Every single square that I have, I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to do that all along here. Then I'm going to fold it. And I'm going to do it again. I'll fold it and do it again till I get all the way down my project. I have every other row pinned now, and so it becomes just like an accordion, and all the seams are going the same direction. I have my pins to make sure everything stays where it's supposed to. And what I will do is I'll just start on this very first seam. I'll go all the way down, take the pins out. Go to the next one, all the way down, take the pins out. And then I can do all the rest of the seams that I haven't pinned right now, because right now it's every other one. So these two are done, but this one in the back is still open. It isn't sewed yet. And so I'm going to do that, pin all the other ones, sew that, and then we'll come back to the ironing table and flatten everything out. Now because I go the same direction, my seams will never buckle up and go the wrong direction. I'll just start at the top and go straight down. Unpin that. Start at the top and go straight down. And I'll do that all the way through all of the different rows. And then we'll be back to the ironing board. The panel is progressing. Everything is all laid out. It's pinned, it was pinned, it was sewed. I ironed them so that all of them go in the right direction. Now I've laid it on some all cotton batting. I like to use the all natural cotton batting. It's just a great feel. It if you're using it in a blanket, it really increases the warmth, and it's natural, and that's important to me. The next step that I will do is to pin the batting to the material, and that way I can free motion afterwards. Now, my other one that is the same kind of square, same material, I've already pinned. And I try to do it about every 6 inches and about 6 inches apart. While I was finishing the panels yesterday, I also did a pink and purple panel. And that just turned out beautifully too. And this one is already pinned also. It has the batting on the back. So after I pin the bottom one, I will start the free motion process. And I can choose any design I want. Sometimes before I do the free motion, I do my appliques. And that's just a matter of choice. You can free motion quilt that part together and then do your appliques and free motion again, or the other way. Sometimes, like on my campers, I always free motion the camper before I do the background. I've just found it easier, and I don't have any lifting of material. But with this one, I'm actually going to free motion quilt it first. Then I'm going to do some applique, some really fun ideas that I'm throwing around in my brain. And then I'll free motion those appliques also. And we'll just keep following the process as we go along. These are all Christmas gifts that I'm giving to family and friends. And so I'm really excited with the process and how they're turning out. And I just love the small squares. They start out being about 2 inches. By the time you've sewed all around them, they're about 1.5 inches. And you can use so many fun materials. You can even buy them in packets. And say you wanted to do some purple. You can buy these little packets that are pre-cut. And they have matching or coordinating fabrics that go together. These ones are done with these little packets. You get to arrange them the way you want to, and it can just be so fun. I could actually cut some of these squares diagonally, so I can do some triangles or just different things. But because I'm doing the applique on them, I just wanted the more straight squared background, where some of my other quilting projects, I do a lot of different things. So we will just continue on with the process. I'm going to pin that bottom one now. And we'll see you again when we're doing the sewing, the free motion on the sewing machine. All the background free motion stitching is finished on the panels, and so I wanted to show you them. As you can see, they're just free-formed, however I felt to move the sewing machine, the material underneath the sewing machine. It's very varied, and it makes it unique, whimsical, quirky, exactly what I was looking for. Now this first one has a pink variegated thread on it. The second one, as you can see, in certain spots, it's very dark. It's the purple variegated that I actually used on the blue panel. Same kind of style, very quirky, fun, whimsical. And this is that panel with the purple variegated that we talked about. It's very subtle, but it pulls those purple colors out more on the panel. I'll zoom back. So it's not stark or anything, but you definitely can see that there's free motion quilting on it. Now on my last panel, I used the dark blue, and this is the panel that's going to have the birds on it. So instead of being just whatever design I come up with, this actually has leaves and stems, because I thought leaves and stems in the background before I put the birds down and free motion them on could be real interesting. So then I have to go next, I have to cut out my material that I'm going to use to embellish it. I'll use double-sided fusible paper. I like the Heat and Bond Lite for that. And I also have to decide what direction my panel will go. Now I'm going to have birds on there. I might use some fabric to enhance leaves and branches because I want a nest on there. But I have to decide if I want it up and down or if I want it across. I'm really thinking that it could be interesting going horizontally, and it could be interesting behind someone's couch. And this is a gift, so I'm just pondering exactly what I should do. So I am going to leave it at that for now. When I get all my applique cut out and I start to position it, I'll send it, you know, back on the camera so that you can see how I'm doing that, how I iron it on, and then how I free motion it onto the panel. Now, I don't cut my extra edges off of the backing until I have all the stitching done, because it can just change it a little bit on the edges the more you stitch onto the fabric. And so I don't cut that until the very end. So I will be back with the applique. I wanted to show you two other panels that I did yesterday. This one, lots and lots of purples. For you that know me personally, my mom loves purple. And so this one is going to be for her. And it's just going to actually be just a table runner. I'm just going to put some material on the back and do a binding on the edges. I might put something, just one little applique. The other one I did is just off-white. I used a variegated thread that has real almost white silver to a more coppery color on it. And this one actually is for a dentist in town. His wife loves giraffes, so this is just the background, and the applique that I'm going to do is going to be a giraffe eating some leaves, and so that should be really exciting, and we'll just follow along on the process.
Is made with black currant.
Here we have the giraffe laid out. Everything is just sitting on there. It still has the paper on the back. I haven't ironed anything, so I can move things around. But it's beginning to take shape. When we get we get it ironed down, and then we start doing that free motion stitching, those lines and colors will just pop out. I'm also thinking about maybe putting some more leaves down in this part so that maybe the giraffe is in and amongst the trees. And so I'm going to heat up my iron. I'm going to take all the paper off the back, and I'm going to start ironing it on. All of the pieces are ironed on together. I did move these around a little teeny bit. Now along this strip here on a giraffe, on this top part, they have like a mane. But I think I'm going to use yarn there so that it's a little more three-dimensional. So I won't put that on until after I have everything stitched. So I'm free motioning the giraffe now. I've done one ear, over by the eye, down by the mouth. And as always, I do 3 rows of stitches. I want it whimsical. I want it to look like I'm sketching it. And so as I go, I don't want the lines to be one on top of the other. I want them to be like an artist drawing. So I'm just continuing to go around everything. Anytime I meet something that touches, I can stop and do that little section 3 times around. And then we move on. Now I finished making the panel by just adding a back. I make little pockets right here so that I can hang it. I use oak or birch wood. I measure it so it fits between the pockets and do a nail hole. That way, while it's hanging, it's always very straight across and easy for the person that's buying or that I'm gifting to can hang it right away. So I think the giraffe really turned out nicely, and I'm going to take a picture of it with it hanging on my wall so you can see it. So I'm working on the panel that has the birds. You can see the stitching of the leaves in there. I've added the applique birds, and they're ironed on now, so they're snug. I've added some branches. I added a robin sitting on one of the branches, and I have sewed that one. I did sew the eye in black, but I am going to put a little bit of white in there also. And then I have a couple of the birds already stitched, always going around 3 times. So I'm just going to finish up stitching on the branches and then on the birds, and then I'll show you a picture. Well, now I have the bird one finished. It's a very long one, and the person I'm actually giving this to wants it as a table runner. So that's how I will finish it. I'm just going to put a dark blue background. I'm just going to sew it as if I was sewing a pillow or anything, other than it will be completely enclosed, where some of my pillows aren't. But I'm just going to finish the edges just like I have over here on the giraffe. And I think she is just going to love it. It matches the colors that are in her dining room. She loves birds and wildlife, and so I think this is just going to be an excellent Christmas present for her, and I hope she enjoys it for a long, long time. As you can see, there's stitching around all of the applique. And on the branches, I let it go all the way into the center parts of the branch instead of just on the edges, because I thought it looked a little more textural. So I hope you like this video on how I make my quilted wall hangings and table runners. And I hope you enjoy your day and you think about doing one for yourself. It's an easy step-by-step process, and I think that you'll really enjoy it. And this is Sandy at Apple Cottage. Remember to subscribe, like my videos, and share my videos with the world. Thank you. Hi. I know that I acted like I was finishing my video, but then I really thought about it, and I thought I really need to show them how I finish my table runners, because it's I don't put the little pockets so you can hang it like I do on my wall hangings, like I did on this giraffe that's in the picture. And so what I like to do, because my sewing room and craft room is very, very small. So everything is really tight. And so what I like to do is I lay the material out on my ironing board. And this is going to be my material that goes on the back of the table runner. Then I take my table runner and I lay it out because I need the right size. And I always cut it about a ½ inch to an inch wider than what my table runner is, just because I find that when I turn it inside out or right side out after I've sewn it, when I have to enclose that little area, it's just easier for me. So what I do is I just lay it out. I have to pull it up a little bit because my ironing board's not that long. And where my edge is, I'll first just cut across there. That way I can, I have the correct length of it. And then I will just trim down the side. And so I'll have a perfect fit for that. Then I'll come back and I'll show you how I pin it and how I sew it. So now I'm ready to pin it. I have the right sides together. So the good sides are right here. I've ironed the base of this. And then I always like to use pins that have the little balls on top. I find it easy to use, easy to find, and you don't miss any pins when you're turning things right side out. I like to start at the corners. And I like to do the pinning about every 6 inches. Now as I go down one side, about every 6 inches, I will stop a little ways down there. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I need a section here that I don't sew so that I can turn it right side out. And then I'll iron that, and then I'll pin it and stitch around the entire top when it's right side out. And so let me finish pinning, and I'll sew that up, and then I'll show you when I'm turning it right side out. I have it all sewed now, and I'm just trimming the corners. I like to cut across the corner, and then I like to slope it down as it goes down the seam, just so it's even a little more narrow. And when I turn it, the corner can be real sharp. Now I did trim off the edge except for right here where it's longer, and that's where I can reach in and turn mine right side out. So I try to do one corner at a time, like to really push it to make a sharp corner. Then I'll go to the next one. So that way we got 2 corners out. And I made this little opening fairly large because this is a long table runner, and I wanted it to be easy to turn right side out. So we're just reaching in there. And I'm going to get these 2 corners also. And you can just work that with your finger. I also have a bone tool that will help with that too if I have a little problems. See, and how you can just work that out so you have a sharp edge. So then I always like to iron it first, but as you can see, right here is where the opening is. And so that's where I'm going to have to tuck this in the same width as how I sewed it and pin that. And so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to iron it. Then I'm going to stitch all the way around so that it has a real nice sharp edge. And I'll do that, and I'll come back with the finished product. Well, the table runner is completely finished. I did a fun little stitch on the edge. Here's the back side. And I'll iron it just one more time, and then it'll be ready to package up and send off for a Christmas present. So I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to my channel. And like it and share it with the world. So this is Sandy at Apple Cottage, and thanks so much.